All right, guys, what's up, and welcome to Tactical Shigarami TV. And here we are with the review that we know a lot of you have been waiting for. And this is the review for the EMG Staccato XC GBB. Now, many of you guys know the Staccato XC has been one of the main driving factors on this entire channel. We know most of you who come to this YouTube channel to watch videos, this is the product that you guys love to see. The analytics don't lie. And let me tell you something. This gas blowback pistol is one of the best choices you can get for not only performance, but for style on the airsoft field. It is sleek, it is fast, and just like its real steel counterpart, it definitely is the tool that you need to give that perfect first impression. Now, for me personally, for this review, I like pairing it with some of my favorite attachments. That includes the Turgicon SRO and the Surefire X300. I feel that those attachments really bring out the beauty of this overall setup. And there's so many things that you have to take into account when you talk about the Staccato XC. The sights are incredible. Not only can you use an optic, but with the suppressor height sights, you get a perfect co-witness where you can line up your targets. So whether you're doing tactical training, CQB, or search and rescue in airsoft, this thing will deliver the accuracy and precision that you need to be successful on the airsoft field. The compensator is just mean, and it delivers that awesome presence, just like the actual real steel Staccato XC. The trigger is simply amazing. It's really light and perfect for CQB engagement. Once you initiate that grip safety and you get nice and tight on that grip and get exactly where you need to be, hit that trigger, and I guarantee you're going to see a big smile on your face every single time you pull that trigger to the rear. The Staccato XC has been one of the major driving forces in the modern day shooting world today. And it is definitely something that you should be looking to if you are thinking about adding a little bit more style to your airsoft game, regardless of who you are or what your goals are. And not only does the Staccato XC come compatible with regular 2011 airsoft magazines designed by EMG, but it is also compatible with other magazine types, such as Army and also your world famous Tokyo Marui high kappa magazines. So customization is always an option, regardless of what you're looking for in terms of performance or overall style. So you have so much options when it comes to the Staccato XC. So guys, enjoy this review, and if you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and all the good jazz. We hope you enjoyed that review that you're going to be seeing, and that you drop those comments. Let us know what you think. Put it in the comments section. Thank you guys so much for your support. Now let's get into the second part of this in-depth Staccato XC review. Enjoy. All right, guys. So welcome to the part of the review that you guys are the most interested in, and that is the part where we go in depth into what you really want to see. So, as per usual, before we move forward with anything else, just as a disclaimer, right? Everything that you see in this video is airsoft. It is an imitation. It is not real. We do not condone the use or sale of any dangerous or deadly items on this channel. This is an imitation. This is a replica, okay? That is completely safe. And also,
for safety purposes. Okay, this is completely empty chamber. We're clear, right? Safe direction. Okay, perfect. And here it is, guys. So this is essentially the replica that a lot of people always like to focus on for the most part, right? Staccato 2011, Staccato EMG Staccato XC, okay, in all of its glory. So as you can see, this particular one, which is my model, has sort of gone through the ringer a little bit, like a few of the other models that I have been running for quite some time. And it has a little bit of paint that is missing there on the thumb safety, on the grip safety as well, and also on the frame. The slide, for the most part, does seem mostly solid. The optic as well. I do need to dust this thing off. I haven't really ran this in quite some time, but yes, this is definitely a beast. It's very fast, as you guys have seen in a lot of other gameplay footage and just a lot of other content that I put out. This does perform really well, especially when the weather is really warm. So what's the beauty of this thing? Well, pretty much it is very popular from an aesthetic standpoint. It does look really good. It's very appealing. You know, the compensator, the way it sort of blends in at the end there with the port, it does look really nice. For the one that I have right here, currently I have the Surefire X300 on it. I think that the Surefire is probably the best option that you can go with for this particular type of rail. For some reason, whenever I put the TLR on it, it kind of looks really funny. So I put the TLR on something else, and I tend to put the Surefire X300 on this. So being is that this is an EMG version. So this is not the EMG Army version, which is completely different. So don't confuse both, even though right now, most of the ones that you'll find are the collaboration version. This box, this is the box that came in. It only has EMG on it. So not to confuse it with the Army Armament or the Jack Precision one, right? This is one of the first variants that came out when they started to put out their Staccato lineup. And at that time, they had the P, I believe the C2, and the XL as well, and the XC, which is this one. So for the most part, when I check online, most of the online stores that I do see, they don't really have this one. It's a little bit more difficult to come by at the moment for some reason. Then again, I could be wrong because it's been a while since I've actually, shopped for Staccatos. But this first generational lineup of Staccatos, for the most part, a lot of people did run them, and many airsofters found that the performance, for the most part, was sort of lackluster for the Staccato piece, or the Staccatos, basically the way how they perform when they were getting them stock. They weren't really too pleased with the way they were shooting out of the box for some reason, in terms of gas efficiency and things like that. They just weren't doing too well. For this particular one, the way I run it, I never really had that many issues with the Staccato XC. But then again, this is not something that I'd shoot every single day, right? So I knew that from my standpoint, what I really wanted to focus on was just a build that I knew was going to work, essentially. And common sense kind of told me, even though there's a CNC version, and some people, they change them, they modify them to run CO2. Your best bet is not to run CO2 on something like this with the weight of the slide and just the way how everything is sort of set up. So the beautiful thing is that this does come with an optic plate in the box. So if you have an optic with an RMR footprint, you can essentially attach that optic any optic that you have that has an RMR footprint, almost no problem. So you can attach, your Churgicons, your Hollisons, anything with that RMR footprint is just going to be able to just pretty much latch onto it, no problem. Once you have the tools, you get your Loctite, everything like that, and you're essentially good to go, really. So when I first put out my unboxing video, this is quite a while ago, one of the viewers that I had on the channel, he was in the Discord. More than likely, you're probably watching this video right now. You may or may not be. If you are, thank you so much for your support. But one of the first things that they did mention was, the recommendation of was it the Acro P2? Basically putting the enclosed emitter dot, the mailbox, on top of the slide. Now, I like those dots, to be honest with you, and I'm thinking about putting one of them on my builds right now. Even though I haven't essentially gotten to it or pulled the trigger on that dot as of yet, but that has been something that has been recommended to me more than once, and I am currently at the moment right now considering it. However, on the other side, in terms of doing that, the problem is with this type of slide is, if you put too much weight on here, if you notice how this thing sort of tracks, we're doing a little bit of manipulations. This is what it is, right? It's not the fastest, as you can see, in terms of reciprocation, right? Even though the spring tension in here is pretty good, so you do get some good response, but you're just putting more mass on this type of slide. So when you add CO2 into the mix, and remember, you're going round after round after round, whether you're doing, tactical training or if you're playing a game, all that reciprocation of mass, it builds up over time. So with some of the other 2011 like builds, depending on how they're set up, even with the blowback units, like with the Sand Viper, for example, which runs the same dot, by the way, in my case, you're essentially building up a lot of wear on the internals and a lot of wear on the parts. So the problem is that some people were having situations where they were shooting them nonstop, and then their dots were literally just flying off of the slide, especially the enclosed emitter. So that is very terrible. And that is something that I sought to avoid initially. So my pretty much overall goal was to get a red dot that had a big enough window where I could sort of see everything, see my target, get really good target acquisition. And that to me was the SRO dot. I feel like this window is pretty big. And the beautiful thing that I like about it is that with the height of these sights, if you line it up perfectly, you have a co-witness right there. So once I turn on the dot, I'm not going to turn on now because it's just it's sort of off course there a little bit. I got to adjust it. But you get the idea. Adjusting the dot is not an issue. You have your co-witness with the SRO. So that is why I'm a big fan of the SRO. Plus, it's also a lot lighter than the Acro. So when you put that on, you're not putting too much weight on the slide. You get that right amount of reciprocation, that right amount of speed, that right amount of traction. And as long as you lube it up and you take care of it, it's pretty much going to function really, really well, right? Now, the grip module that you have, I believe this one is called is it the VIP grip? I think it's the VIP grip. It's a plastic one. I'm not a big fan of this grip. This is the production model grip that they have on a lot of the EMG versions, the first generation ones have the same grip, the older models that you'll see on the C2 as well as the P. So it's real basic. It's not that comfortable for me. It's doable, but not ideal in that sense. Where I have my preference, I think Army Armament does a really good job of providing you guys with a really good stipple out of the box. But its production quality is like meh, you know. You got the star pattern, which is pretty cool on both sides. And that's really common with a lot of the Nova kits and the other ones that you can get for the Tokyo Model. So you can actually convert a lot of those models to a Staccato lookalike, which is pretty cool. However, this is pretty light and you don't really have much of a mag well. And for some reason, when you do hold it, a lot of the weight is in the upper part because that's where all the metal is. And, you know, the frame itself is just really, it even though it's sturdy, it does feel like it's really weak. And it feels like almost too light in that sense. So I prefer the Master Grip. I believe that's what it's called. Yeah. So I currently have the Master Grip on a few of my other Staccatos, including the XL, and I feel like that one just gives you the right amount of friction, whether you're wearing gloves or not. So as you can see there, there's a lot of wear on the frame. Most of the paint you see there by the flag has come off by now. And at the time of this recording, I have had this for almost 2 years. About within a few months, it'll be 2 years. So that's, you know, it's a considerable amount of time, but still, you know, I'd imagine that, you know, some things would hold up over time. It's pretty snappy, right? That's one of the things that really makes it so cool is that, you know, it tracks really well. All the aesthetics are still there. The sight is still there. Everything is pretty much solid for the most part, and the slide action is still pretty good, even though this thing needs a little bit of lube. So it's still pretty good. I don't take this thing out and run it like hell and like lube it every weekend. So that's something you have to think about too. Is if you're gonna get something like this, you know, if you're looking for that everyday, you know, airsoft sidearm, I don't know if I would say the Staccato XC is your go-to sidearm every day for, you know, for heavy outdoor and indoor use. Like for me, like this setup is more like an indoor setup. When I go outdoors, I tend to run my 1911s, I run my Glocks, I run those. When I'm indoors, I run my 2011s. So like my DVC, my Staccatos, my Sand Viper, my Pit Viper. That's more or less, you know, the time when I'm gonna be running those nicer. I want to say like a little bit over the budget level when it comes to running 2011s for airsoft. So that's essentially what I'm going to be doing in that time. So the good news is if you guys are Tokyo Model E high kappa owners, the magazine compatibility is what makes this thing really good. Now, here's the problem. I know some of you guys, you know, that are watching this video right now, a lot of you have been watching, you know, my gameplays and my reviews and things like that for quite some time. The magazines that come with the Staccato XC, unfortunately, are not that great. Just unfortunately. So the one that I had that came with this, if you guys saw the video, I literally was playing a game and the magazine like exploded, which was crazy. If you guys saw that video, it was nuts. It literally exploded on me and some guys mid game, and it happened at Area 41 quite some time ago. And what I was told is basically because the way the magazines were designed, especially at the base plate, they were designed in a way where there's some pins in the base, and essentially those pins really should be there. So this magazine that you see right here is actually an Army Armament one. It's an Army one. But the beautiful thing is that the Army magazines and the Marui ones and the other 2011 clone ones, for the most part, definitely the Army and the Tokyo Marui, these run in the EMG no problem. As I mentioned before in my other previous video, you can run these magazines. So if you have these, you're good to go, right? And they have the same base plate, the Lone Star with the Texas map thing there on the base plate. So you can run those magazines a-okay. That's great. But for those of you guys that get this, if you want this particular one, just be careful with that magazine, right? If you load it, just be mindful of the temperature and where you're playing, I guess, or what can happen, because you might fill it up and for whatever reason it just might explode. It just happened anyways. But yeah, the Army armament ones have the same mold. This is the Tokyo Marui magazine in my right hand right here. This one is, a little bit beat up and it's seen some, some better days. But as you can see, I've attached the PTS shock plate here so I can run this one indoors, and I can do the drop mag reloads when I'm, running this really, really fast. So as you can see here, this is the Army. The Army fits in there, not real nice. It clicks, locks back, no problem. Just like the stock magazine, as you can see there, feed ramp, everything is in line, no issues. And Tokyo Marui, here it is, the Tokyo Marui magazine, clicks, feeds, no problem. And they both essentially, feed really, really well. So if you have either one, or if you have both, you don't have to go and buy a bunch of EMG magazines, which I can guarantee you is something that you definitely don't want to do. I would highly advise you, if you need mags, get the Marui ones. They're easier to maintain. If you want to tweak them, they're easier to work on if you gotta change something, or if you need to add something on there, like these base plates to make them more durable, or whatever the case is. It's a lot easier to deal with those type of magazines than dealing with the EMG ones, which once they break, once they're gone, that's it. So from a magazine compatibility standpoint, man, I mean, there's just so many options. As for HPA and Life Source, I have not tried to do any Life Source stuff or any HPA stuff with, my Staccatos. But I have seen a lot of people using the Life Source cables with the Tokyo Marui adapter, the magazines, with a lot of EMG 2011s, including the Pit Viper. But however, I do not own the EMG version of the Pit Viper, right? But I do have the other one, and that's going to be, hint, hint, another upcoming video. But for this particular one, I don't think I've seen anyone using like HPA Life Source with this particular Staccato XC. However, most of the Staccatos that I've seen people use, especially in Japan, or not even just Staccatos, but most, you got to remember, HPA and Life Source here is basically CO2 in Japan. But they call it green gas, but it's not exactly green gas. That's just the branding that they use, but it's a little bit confusing. Anyways, essentially you're dealing with the same amount of pressure as CO2. That's essentially what that weaker version of HPA is. And a few people do run that type of Life Source with their 2011s. If you're going to do something like that, I would definitely not advise you to do that with this particular model out of the box, unless you know exactly what you're doing and you've done the correct modifications to make it run, where you don't run into those kind of problems where things will break. Because I can assure you that Nothing that you see here is CNC. I can tell you that right now. It's not. So out of the box, this thing is specifically for green gas. Is it green gas? Yeah. Green gas and 134A duster. However, I wouldn't really consider this really as a green gas, a heavy green gas setup. I look at it probably as more along the lines of a 134A for sure. However, the Japanese version that they do have, which is a little less powered, I think is specifically for 134A. So they do have some versions of this, at least several of them. Two which call to mind. The CNC one is more durable, so that's probably easier to convert to CO2. However, that one is a lot more difficult to come by than the Staccato, just the stock Staccato XC. The regular Staccato XC that came like in the first lineup that E-Bike and EMG did, that one primarily is a green gas gun. So essentially, if you're running that, you're supposed to be running gas, right? Now, internals wise, okay, we should talk about that for a second. The internals on this, from my understanding, they should be Tokyo Marui spec, from my understanding. I have taken this apart quite a few times, but in my case, I have not changed anything on this because this was imported for me. So I try not to mess with anything that would conflict with what came with it that shows what this thing chronos at for the paperwork. So I leave that alone. However, this is, I would say, mostly compatible with a lot of the Lilacs parts that you will find, especially if you're in Japan. So your inner barrels and your packings and all that stuff, you can change it. A few people have asked me about the internals, about changing internals or doing a disassembly video. So if you guys are interested in a disassembly video for the Staccato XC, I believe that there is a video available now, a disassembly video, where I pretty much break this whole thing down. I go into the upper and I show you how to access the inner barrel. Someone asked me about that quite a while ago. I know people are always asking about the inner barrel. So that video is still there. It's available. I'm thinking about doing another breakdown video, another internals one. But yes, that video is there. So if you are thinking about doing something like that, you can change a whole lot with this. I can tell you that right now. The Army Armament and Tokyo Marui grip modules are also compatible with this. So in this case, if you get something like this, and if you want to change, let's say, for example, the grip itself, you can change pretty much anything on the lower, like literally change it, just like a actual, modular 2011. That includes the hammer as well. So if the hammer breaks, which is for the most part somewhat unlikely, actually, one of my other 2011s is the Sandviper. That hammer actually wound up breaking. It did break before this one, and yeah, I'd say I had this Staccato for just about the same amount of time, and that one broke first. This one is still pretty much holding up pretty strong. As you can see, there's some wear on it, but as you do know, anything can happen. And because this is hitting against this, there's always that possibility that this can snap or break. So you can change that. That's not an issue. Same thing with the other stuff on the lower as well. So if you're looking at part compatibility, I think that's one of the things that makes the EMG really cool, because you can change a lot of things on it to make it, to personalize it or to make it run better. So all the other stuff you'd probably want to do, which are like triggers, grips, all that stuff, hammers, all that, you can change it. Some people also do the barrel as well, which is fine. The screws that I'm currently using for this right now, I believe they came with my DCI kit. I believe so. I have a few other screws that do work, and this has not wobbled. You can see that. That's just the play from the slide and the compensator. As you can see there, this is very sturdy. See that? That's just the slide moving. And it has a little bit more play than the Army armament. But that's just because the tolerance on the parts are just that much different on the EMG. I don't think it makes it inferior, but I think it just pretty much goes down to the production quality of what they produce. So you can definitely tell the difference between the EMG and the Army armament when you have both in your hands. From a performance standpoint, and this is, remember, this is stock. This is stock. This is not custom, right? The only thing that I did was just put an optic and put a light on this. That's it. That is it. From a stock perspective, when the magazine is right, everything is right. It shoots accurately. It shoots fast, as you guys saw. It sits on target really well. So you can get really good groups, really good hits. I've done some training sessions, a whole bunch of different ones you guys have seen, on the YouTube channel from different point of views. It just runs, and it runs really well. It runs really well if you know how to maintain your magazines and how to maintain the gun itself. It does run. I can tell you that right now. So from a performance standpoint, I wouldn't, compare it to that of, CO2, of course. But yeah, performance wise, I'll give it a B plus, definitely. And when you talk about build quality, out of the box, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's just kind of crazy because I've had my DVC for the same amount of time that I've had this. And I still have all the paint on the frame. So I just think that, yeah, they could have done a little bit better when it comes to the paint job. I don't know what you guys think, but just take a closer look at that. On the frame, a lot of that is starting to come off. By the 2011, it's starting to fade. But it doesn't feel shoddy at all. It feels very solid. So from a build quality standpoint, I would have to give it like a B minus. So my overall grade for the Staccato XC by EMG and E-Vibe would have to be just a B, right? An average. I don't think that it's one of those things that, that really will defeat the purpose of what it's for. And I wouldn't really run something like this as a main, sidearm for all, these different types of purposes and scenarios. In my opinion, there are other things you can do with that. There are other things that you can get for those purposes, right? So that's just how I feel. Anyways, guys, if you have any comments about this, I'm sure you do. This is the Staccato, everyone. Most of my engagement that I get on this channel is all Staccato. You guys love the Staccato, right? So I owe you guys a lot of Staccato stuff. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good jazz. Support this video if you're brand new. Thank you so much for watching my YouTube channel. I do appreciate it very much. And let me know what you guys think in the comment section, man. Like, is this something that you run? Like, do you rock with the Staccato XC? I think it looks pretty dope. It's pretty cool. It's definitely a cheaper option to get something to train with that is about the same, frame, one-to-one frame or one-to-one size as the real one. But of course, that would cost you a lot of money. And this is Airsoft, so it's considerably cheaper. So going with something like this would be ideal if you want to look at it from that standpoint. But it's up to you, But yes, let me know what you guys think in the comment section, and I will post some more Staccato stuff for you guys. I'm very thankful for all of you. Thank you so much, and See you guys very soon.